Sadly, as you have probably figured out, the biggest problem with the iPhone 8 Plus isn't the 8 Plus at all. See, I want to do the very, very best I can to talk about the 8 Plus and not address the 10, because I know that's what everyone wants to talk about. The iPhone 10 is stealing kind of the show. It's stealing the thunder of the iPhone 8, and it's not out yet. In fact, at the time you're watching this, it's almost exactly 1 month away for just the first wave of people who are going to be unboxing it and having it. 90% of the people who want the iPhone 10 are going to have to wait till next year or November or December at the very soonest, unless you're up at midnight refreshing. So let's not talk about that as much as possible. Maybe at the end of the video, I'll throw in a 2 cents. But anyway, what has Apple simply done with the changes between the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 8? Well, I think the big word that jumps out of me when reviewing the iPhone 8 is perfected. Not necessarily original. As you can tell, the front of the iPhone 8 does not look that different from the 7 or the 6S or even the 6. To be honest, doesn't look that much different from the 5 or the 4. This same basic design we've been going with for iPhones has been working. You know, we've got the 2 big forehead and chin. We've got our home button on the chin with Touch ID. We have a 16:9 display with a 1080p resolution on the 8 Plus. And if that's too big for you, you've got the 750p resolution on the iPhone 8, not 720p. A lot of people get that mixed up. It's slightly above 720. I don't know why, it just is. And even though the resolution of these phones have not changed that much in the past couple years, the displays themselves are still getting better. With the iPhone 8, we now have True Tone. A lot of people aren't really giving much credit to True Tone. I know actually a lot of friends and relatives who absolutely love True Tone displays because they're easier on the eyes when it's dark or depending on the lighting you're in. It matches the color temperature. And the reason I think it goes without saying, a lot of people don't notice it, is because it kind of just blends into the background. When you're used to looking at True Tone displays all the time, you don't really notice them. So when reviewing the iPhone 8, I think a lot of people miss out on that True Tone display because it's easier on the eyes, but like I said, it kind of goes without notice. Which I guess is fine. You know, it's just kind of a silent improvement. But definitely when you hold it up to a non-True Tone display, I think it's very, very noticeable, and you realize how tinted blue all the screens are that you're looking at. But I've noticed that most people find that if the display of a phone hasn't changed, if the screen size hasn't changed, then the phone itself doesn't really matter, because people look at upgrades like the Galaxy S8 and go, wow, what a massive change. Look at this infinity display. When in actuality, when I reviewed the S8, I noticed that, yes, this display is cool, but after a couple of weeks, you kind of get used to it. That wow factor of the edge to edge kind of wears off, and find out that the phone's not that terribly different. I mean, they put Touch ID on the back, and it's more complicated now, kind of at an awkward angle. We have the iris scanner now, but we had that before. We had a glass back before. We had waterproofing before. Headphone jack, same place. We had USB-C, both on the Note 7, but I guess maybe you didn't get used to the Note 7. No stereo speakers. The camera's a little bit better, but not that much better. Overall, if you set it aside from the display, it's not that massive of an upgrade. Whereas I feel that the design change from the 7 to the 8 is actually quite massive. I mean, the entire back of the phone is now made of glass, which of course allows for wireless charging, but it also gives a more grippier feel. A lot of people feel that glass is more slippery. I've heard lots of YouTubers say this is more of a fingerprint magnet. I've actually found that with the space gray color, fingerprints are actually kind of hard to notice. It's definitely harder to see on aluminum, but that's because aluminum, you know, isn't glossy. But I've actually noticed that when aluminum phones age, you can kind of see scratches and dings and little scuffs on the back a lot more noticeable than you can scratches on this glass, which Apple says is some of the most durable glass ever in a smartphone. And sadly, that doesn't mean much because most glass breaks if you drop it from 5 feet anyway. But the fact still remains, you should be careful with your phone. You know, last year, if you dropped your iPhone 7 from an awkward height, then yeah, the screen on the front would shatter. Now, of course, there's that option of shattering on the front and back, but honestly, I don't really care if the back is cracked because I don't use that. I don't have a touch interface on here. So the fact is, phones are still fragile. I don't think this changes anything. Just makes the back kind of look weird if you do happen to drop it. But even if you're dropping an iPhone 7, aluminum scuffs, aluminum scratches, it looks bad either way. Just if you're sometimes clumsy with your phone and you like to throw it, or you just drop it a lot, keep a case on it. Same rules for the 7, same rules for the 8. But I do want to bring up that word perfected because design-wise, I really am in love with the design overall. Even though it's rather traditional, it's as if they've finally perfected this form factor and this design element of an iPhone. The Apple logo no longer has a ridge. The flash is embedded underneath the glass. The writing is embedded underneath the glass. There's much, much less writing than the last generation of iPhone. It's much more clean. Apart from the little microphone dot and the camera bulge, this is just a single single solid sheet of glass, top to bottom, and it just feels very nice to hold. I love that the bumper of it is aluminum. It's kind of a combination of the matte black iPhone 7 with the jet black iPhone 7. It's like a merging of the best of both. The aluminum bumper gives a good grip, but the glass on the back is much more pleasant to hold. And of course, wireless charging, which I love so much. I'm still keeping up with my portless challenge. I hope lots of you are too. For those who don't know, I vowed that as soon as wireless charging came to the iPhone, I would never plug a single thing into the Lightning port. That way, when Apple inevitably does remove the last port on the iPhone, won't be a big deal because I'll be used to it. Been pairing this thing with AirPods, been using it without a Lightning plug, no wires whatsoever. I have several wireless chargers in the office and at home that keep this thing charged. And you know, wireless charging is not the fastest method of charging, definitely not. I know a lot of people were complaining that fast charging was not included with the iPhone, but I've noticed I kind of have the polar opposite opinion of a lot of YouTubers. I watch a lot of tech YouTubers and most of them are saying, you know, fast charging, this is included in most Android phones. What the heck? Why do we only get a 5-watt power brick with the iPhone 8? That's a joke. And wireless charging, it's kind of cool, I guess. I'm kind of the exact opposite. For me, it's like fast charging. I charge my phone when I go to sleep, and I'm asleep from 5 to 6 hours. So whether it charges at 1 a.m. or 3 a.m., I don't really care. Fast charging's not a big deal for me because there's not been a lot of situations where it's like, oh shoot, I have to go, but my phone is dead. Let me charge my phone really quick. Let's see how high up the battery can charge in 10 minutes. That's not something I run into. I'd rather just have the battery last a long time. And with the A11 Bionic chip, the standby time on the iPhone 8 is great. I know they didn't really talk much about battery in the iPhone 8, but I've noticed a very good battery life with the iPhone 8. And maybe part of that is that I have the Series 3 LTE Apple Watch, so a lot of the time I just leave my phone at home or at the office because I don't need to bring it. So maybe that's why I've never killed the battery on my 8. I've used it a lot. I take it a lot of places, but I've never hit that moment where I need to use a cable or I need fast charging. It's just not that useful to me. Whereas wireless charging, I think, is extremely convenient because, you know, you're sitting at a desk, you still want to use your phone, you just want to drop it down, you just leave it on this little plate and it starts charging. It's very easy and convenient. And no, I know it's not technically wireless charging, it's portless charging, but still, I still very much enjoy it. I do think that is the future, and I think the more we get used to that now, the easier that conversion to no ports will be in the future. And there's probably Android people in the comments who, we've had that for years. Yes, you have, though I don't know many of you that use it. I'm happy for you. I'm happy you've had it for a long time, but I think Apple does like to perfect things, and that's why I think they're never really the first to a new feature. One thing I have noticed with the iPhone 8 is that wireless charging will actually activate before it touches the pad. It's kind of hard to show you in a video, but I've noticed that with the little $12 Qi charger I got on Amazon, the phone will start charging before it even makes contact with the pad, which I've tested this wireless charger on several Galaxy phones to make sure it worked before I got my iPhone 8. It didn't do that. It usually takes a couple seconds after the phone drops on the pad. My friend had a Galaxy phone, I dropped it on the pad, a couple seconds would go by, and then wireless charging would activate. And on this, it even activates before it touches the phone, which is really neat. And there's actually a startup company called Pi that is working on this padless wireless charging that most phones need a case for. However, the new wireless charging equipped in the iPhone 8 and iPhone 10 will work without a case so that you can leave your phones within a foot radius of this little cone that you plug in, and then you don't even need a pad and they will wirelessly charge. Sadly, those aren't available yet, but they say the technology is ready and it's safe, it's FCC approved, and I'd really like to try one of those out when they come out. And I think the fact that the new iPhones do support this, but not all the Galaxy phones yet, is proof that Apple is working on perfecting this technology so that it will last a long time, rather than rushing it out as soon as possible. Sadly, they don't have fast wireless charging enabled yet, but they are saying on Apple.com that that will be enabled via software update later in the year. And I don't know why, if they have the hardware for it, why do you need to update it later? Can't they just do that out of the box? Because I also have a fast wireless charger from Rav Power, which is cool, but we don't have the fast wireless charging feature yet, so I don't. Why would you do that, Apple? I still don't get that. Kind of like with the Galaxy Note 8, they're like 4K at 60 coming later. It's like, just do it. Just do it now. Why do you gotta wait? Regardless, I'm sorry for being devil's advocate, but I just think wireless charging is far more excited than fast charging. And of course, if you do think fast charging is very important, it is available on the iPhone 8. I'm not gonna use it, but it's there if you want to pay the extra $70 if you don't already have a MacBook charge brick. See, I could be fast wireless charging now. I have the USB-C power brick for my MacBook, and I have a USB-C to Lightning cable, but I find wireless charging far more convenient than fast charging. I've never needed it. So of course, the next, like, most unappreciated thing I've noticed about about the iPhone 8 is the new cameras. Forever from here on out, the iPhone 8 will be the first smartphone that ever had 4K at 60. That's a very high frame rate at a very high resolution. I did a vlog with this. You should go to Tailosive Talks to check out the 4K at 60 vlog I did. YouTube does support this, but sadly it's only if you're in Google Chrome. So if you have a 4K TV or a 4K monitor and you have the internet for it and you have Google Chrome, you can go watch that vlog at 4K at 60. But for the most part, you're probably on the YouTube mobile app, you're on Safari. Sadly, those do not support 4K at 60 at this time. But man, does it look amazing. This shoots at a very high bitrate too. And for those wondering, no, I don't really want to switch to using my iPhone to record my tech videos because while yes, it does film at 4K at 60, they're letting in a lot less light with these sensors because they're tiny. In the new Apple compression format, you know, H.265, that allows for lots of amounts of detail in a small storage space, it does noticeably compress the footage. And I have noticed that the difference between the wide angle lens and the telephoto lens is very significant. The telephoto camera looks a lot crappier than the wide angle. Even though they're both capable of 4K at 60, the wide angle definitely looks a lot better with that optical image stabilization and that lower focal length. But hopefully with the iPhone 10, we'll see a better. Oh no, iPhone 10 doesn't exist. Don't talk about it. Cameras aren't better on that. What are you talking about? What? Don't wait for the 10. But as well with the iPhone 8, you do get some new lighting options that you didn't have on the iPhone 7. So it's not just about 4K at 60. It's not just about HDR photos, which also look really, really good. That's why this phone beat out the Google Pixel on that DxO Mark website. I don't know what it's called. Let's hope the Pixel 2 doesn't beat the 8. And if it does, by like 1 point, let's hope the iPhone 10 will beat the Pixel 2. I don't care about their scores. That's not how you should judge a phone. The new stage lighting features are really, really cool. How you can decide how portrait mode handles lighting in different scenarios is definitely a big enhancement to portrait mode for me. I think that's really, really awesome. And something no one's bringing up that Apple thought of that's really cool. When you take portrait mode shots on your iPhone 8 and you airdrop them to, say, your iPad, when you hit edit on your iPad, you still have all of those lighting options. Something they programmed into iOS 11, which not a lot of people knew about or appreciated. I think that's really cool. That the portrait shot saves all of that data so that even when you airdrop it to a different device, you can still decide between all those different modes. There's just so much work going on behind the scenes when you take a picture with an iPhone 8. So much processing power, so much data is saved. It's really, really cool. And I think most people are admitting online, iPhone 8 Plus is the best smartphone camera there is right now. They've compared it to the Note 8. Even though the Note 8 has dual optical image stabilization, people still notice better video stabilization on the 8, even though it only has one lens with OIS. Apple has really gotten that down, both between digital stabilization and optical stabilization. They really have figured this out. Again, they have perfected it with the iPhone 8. Of course, not a lot of people care about processor speeds these days because Apple's winning that field now. So most Androids would say it doesn't matter anymore because they're losing. But if we look at the Geekbench scores for the iPhone 8, they are insanely high. The iPhone 8 is on par with some MacBook Pros. With the A11 Bionic chip, the processing power is razor sharp. And if you're doing a lot of exporting on your phone, I guess that is nice and impressive. So overall though, most reviews end with people asking, should I wait for the 10 or is this a worthy upgrade from the iPhone 7? Or maybe you have a 6S and you're debating, should I get a 7 or an 8? Obviously, some of the changes people didn't like was that the price for the iPhone 8 is slightly higher than that of what the 7 was. But I like to bring up that now the standard storage configuration is 64 gigs instead of 32. So you are getting more out of the cheapest package, which is no longer as cheap as it used to be, but still. I think it was very considerate of Apple to say, you know what, if there's a camera on this thing that does 4K at 60, then it should have 64 gigs of internal storage in it. That's just logical, that makes sense. And while yes, it is a design element that's very similar to the past 3 iPhones, I think that all of the cool changes and the traditional form factor of screen and bezel on this thing really make it an amazing package. I know a lot of people think that if they buy the 8, they won't feel like they got a new phone. I disagree with that. I used the iPhone 7 ever since it came out, and switching to the 8 has been a complete and noticeable rehaul for me. Even though the screen on the front looks the same, guess what? No matter what phone you buy, what display size it is, you're gonna get used to it because it's not about the display, it's about what's on it. And all of the new features, the new processing power, the new cameras, the wireless charging, I think this is a worthy upgrade. In fact, after using this iPhone 8 for a few weeks, I admit that it deserves the full number upgrade. It deserves an 8, not a 7S. This is too massive of an upgrade to just be some 7S. I love that the stereo speakers are louder too. That's really nice. Front-facing camera, while I don't use it a lot, is still very capable. And keep in mind, with these pictures on the iPhone 8, unlike Android phones, they are all live photos. When you force press on them, they come to life, and I've still not seen the competition do that, which I really enjoy. So if someone's debating between the 7 and the 8, pretty much every time I'm going to tell you the 8. It's more money, yes, but you're getting so much more out of it. You're future-proofing your smartphone. So that's the easy question. The hard question becomes, should I get the 10 or the iPhone 8? And I'll admit, I think while they're fairly similar in price, this is only $200 more, they are in very different genres. People who don't really care about how thin bezels are, people who aren't interested in Face ID and who like Touch ID, you should get the 8. But the warning I give to anyone out there who's waiting for the 10, and I know that's a lot of you, if you're not planning on getting the 10 at midnight on October 27th, 12:01, and you're refreshing the Apple Store app or the Apple Store website, if you're not planning to do that, you are not going to get the 10 in 2017. It's rumored that because the iPhone 10 is so high in demand, so many people want it, and because it's taking so long to produce them, there's not that many available. There's a lot of people who are going to order the iPhone 10 in the pre-order period and still not get it until 2018. So I'm gonna be one of those people refreshing at midnight, trying to get it as fast as possible. But keep in mind, if you're one of those people out there that says, well, I can't afford it yet, but I'm trying to set aside money, maybe by mid-November I can afford one, maybe by December I can afford one. If you're not planning on ordering the 10 until mid-November or somewhere into December, you will not get the 10 until March. These things are taking longer than expected to crank out, and I would hate for it if a lot of people out there right now are saying, nah, I don't want the iPhone 8. It's cool, but the 10 is better. I'm gonna get the 10. And you can't afford it by the end of October. It means you're not gonna have a new phone for like 6 months. I think Apple really shot themselves in the foot with this iPhone. It's really, really great, but the problem is they priced it pretty low, and I'm probably the only YouTuber you know who says that. But I think the iPhone 8 would have sold a lot better if they priced the 10 more at $1,200 to $1,400 and included fast charging and AirPods. That way, its price point would be significantly higher than the 8, and the 8 would be a bit more reasonable. More people would buy this. The problem Apple ran into is this is only $200 more, so most people who can afford the 8 Plus are like, no, I'm getting the 10. It has a better camera, that cool new display, Face ID, only $200 more. Plus, if you're getting the 256 version, it's basically $100 more. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at a new iPhone to buy this year. You can walk into an Apple store at any time, any day of the week, and these things will be available. You don't have to pre-order these, you don't have to ship them to you. There's gonna be plenty of 8s to go around for everyone. So you can upgrade your phone now. You can go to a carrier website or apple.com and upgrade to an 8 Plus right now. Whereas this, if you're not pre-ordering at midnight, you won't be getting it for 3 months to 6 months, depending on how high in demand these are gonna be and how low stock they are gonna be. And predictions are, it's not gonna look good. It's gonna be worse than AirPods in terms of shipping time. So I definitely agree with most people out there. The iPhone 8 is completely underrated. It's a very massive upgrade. Despite the screen being the same, I think it's a very noticeable change, and I think anyone out there who gets the 8 is really going to enjoy its new features. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below, and please, consider the 8, people. Hashtag consider the 8. The 10 is cool, but if you have to wait that long to get it, is it really gonna be worth it in the long run? This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.